Welcome back to Don't Lift Off. Season's greetings to you. Hope you've all had a great Christmas and are looking forward to New Year. My name is Anthony, for those who don't know me, and today I'm going to be talking to a guy who I've known for over 35 years. His name is Tom Jakobitsch, an Austrian fella whose paths I've kind of first crossed in Formula Vauxhall Junior in the late 1990s, although he was racing in Class B when I was racing in Class A, which will kind of come out in the interview, I suppose. Before that, Tom raced in the UK in 100cc karts and then went on to race in sports cars and then into endurance racing over at Spa and Nürburgring, ironically with the same team that I raced in Formula Renault with. He nowadays, we've become reacquainted because on Facebook he quite often posts things about Formula One, about sort of insights into Formula One and random bits of information. So he seems pretty obsessed with Formula One, and he's kind of like a modern citizen journalist, I would say. So I'm looking forward to speaking with Tom. Randomly, we've never actually spoken before, apart from the other day to arrange this podcast. So I'm looking forward to getting to know him a little bit more and find out about what he was, how he came to race in Formula Vauxhall Junior and how and where his path went from then, and I guess about his passion for Formula One. So hope you enjoy, and remember, in the meantime, don't lift off. Nice and cheesy, Dunny. Well done. Even though we've kind of known of each other for 35 odd years, we've conversed on social media almost daily, and yet the first time I'd actually spoken to you was a couple of days ago, and I said, "You fancy coming on the podcast?" And it's just a bit of a random time that you become friends with someone and you're sharing your daily activities, and you haven't spoken in never actually spoken, although I reckon we have. So well, how do we know each other? That's probably the starting point.
I've seen you in karts in the 90s, and I had a couple of fights with you in England in the former Vauxhall Juniors. That is what I remember. But you was in Class A and I was in Class B.
That shows how much of a wanker I am. Then if I was in a Class A car and you were in Class B and you were fighting with me.
Yeah, well, in the wet I was able to.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I suppose an explanation. In fact, I'll just tilt this camera around because I've done a brief intro, just to kind of say, this is because I don't want this to be a formal. It doesn't want to be formal at all. It just wants to be a conversation. But if I just tilt round, you'll see my Formula Vauxhall Junior. So single seater, Formula cars that were raced early to late 1990s, sponsored by Vauxhall, 1600cc, slicks, no wings, just for a load of fucking idiots mainly, who would just shunt into each other at every given opportunity every weekend. But before we'll go into that, and we can talk about some of those times. But so you're in Austria, right? You're Austrian. Are you Austrian?
Yeah, I'm a born Austrian. Yeah.
Right. So randomly, how did you manage to? Why did you end up racing in the UK? How did that all come about?
It's Senna's fault. Senna, this book came out of his, uh, and my dad. It was in the 70s. My dad took me to the Austrian ring, and he was racing there. I was a little boy, still in my pants, and I was fascinated by Ayrton. And then I read this book of his, and I started karting in Austria. But in Austria, I couldn't get nowhere. Everybody's so envious in Austria, and uh, so when I became 18, I said to my dad, I want to go to England and become a racing driver because that is what
So that
Dad
was
had
that
did
when
as
you were
well.
18?
I was
So you were
18, yes.
18 when you. Okay, okay.
And my dad said, "No, you fool. We're not driving in circles. Do something proper, you know." So I said, "Well, fuck you. I go on my own." And that's how I ended up in England on my own in a shitty old VW. I had no friends in England. My English was poor, Schule English. Nobody understood me. And everybody was driving on the wrong side of the road.
Amazing. Amazing. Let me see. I've got. Let me see if I can find this. Hang on, 2 seconds. Bear with. This is quite funny. This is.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
There she is. There she is. Is that you?
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, mate.
So that
With
you
that
were at
car,
18.
with that car, I drove from Graz, Austria. At that stage, I still had the original engine with 54 horsepower. I drove that from Graz in Austria to Ipswich in England on my fucking own. And there I got to know John Brewster from Auto Cavan in Ipswich, and he built me an engine and he got me into racing.
No way. So what were you
Yeah.
racing? I can see a picture there. Is it Santa Pod? What's going down there?
Well, I wasn't sort of sure what I'm going to raise, and funds were very limited. And I loved the Beatles back then, and John Brewster from Autocavan said to me, "Come on, Tom, come to Soundboard and do a bit of run what you brung." So just for fun,
Yeah,
going
yeah, yeah.
straight. And I only had a small engine, but I was still fucking GTIs, and they wanted me to put nitros on it as well. But it was my daily drive, so I couldn't tune it too much. Yeah, and that's how really got started with motorsport. Too late.
Yeah.
I was an old fart by then.
That's yeah, it's funny actually that you say that you started when you were 18 because I started when I was 18 as well actually.
Oh, really?
So yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was quite old as well. I always wanted to do motocross when I was a kid. Well, scrambling as it was then known as. And
Yeah.
but my parents didn't like all the broken bones. We had an uncle that was yeah, it basically broke his back. It ended in a wheelchair. So my parents stopped that. But it's only when I passed my driving test was I realised what I was interested in because I was doing A levels and not really interested in
Yeah.
doing that. But I was interested in driving my little shitty Fiesta on the road. And
Yeah.
yeah, so you're 18. And how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I became on the 13th of December. I became 56.
Ah, fair play, mate. Well, happy birthday, 13th of December,
Happy
mate.
birthday. No problem. Yeah, and really,
56.
yeah, and really, I mean, Lewis was he was when I first met him in Shennington it was or in Buckmore. He's 6 years old, and uh, we were in the paddock, and his father was uh, spannering on Lewis's card, and I was spannering on my card, but I was old already. But I still wanted to fulfill my dream.
Hmm. So did you hang around with Lewis? How did you? Sorry, that sounds a bit pedo, doesn't it? Did you hang around with a 6-year-old? Was he racing at Buckmore? And do you help his dad, or what happened there?
Now, thing is, I, I, I first emigrated to England and I went to Ipswich for a couple of years. I was working for International Ferry Freight as a logistics operator. 2 years after that,
Okay.
Austria was still not in the EU, so I only was allowed to stay there for 2 years. So after 2 years, I fucked off to Barcelona when the Olympics were down there. And I worked in Barcelona for 2, 3 years when the Olympics were down there, also in logistics. After Barcelona, I went to France, worked there for a couple of years for an Austrian company, and that's when I really bought my first car, my own car.
Okay.
And I stayed there for 2 years in the south of France, and then they called me back to England, and I came to London. And that is when I went with my Spanish card. I had a Risco card back then, Spanish card. I went to Tilbury, and did my first testing days. And the Spanish kart was really stiff and had a 30 millimeter axle already, and it was too stiff for the cold conditions in Tilbury. And that's how I got to know Dartford Karting. You know, Jim and Tony Cruttenden. Uh,
Okay.
and I got to know them, and sooner or later I had a card of them, a soft card, good for the winter conditions. I raced with Stephen Day and uh, Craig Booth. He was a works driver for Dartford Karting, and I became a works driver as well. And and we just did club races in Tilbury, in Buckmore Park, in Shannington, and so on. We did that for 1 or 2 years, and then
So
and then
what years was this, Tom, when you first started?
well, I started karting first when I was 19 or 20, I think.
Okay. So what early late 80s, early 90s?
Early 90s, mid 90s. I think the first big championship in England was was the first year was the first year when the kart masters were the first kart masters in PFI. I think that was 94. Can that be?
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
And
yeah,
and
okay.
and that's when I was already a driver, a work driver for a Ricky Flynn Motorsport. I done the Super One
Ricky Flynn,
with
right.
yeah, I done the Super One with Ricky Flynn Motorsport, and I got punted all the time. It pissed me off. But in PFI in the kart masters, I came third, and I was proud of that. As an old fart,
Hmm.
I was the other guys they were 15, 16, and I was already 20.
Yeah, it's funny that actually. So I was similar sort of thing. So again, I started when I was 18 and I went into TKM. It was like mega grids back then. That's
Oh
the thing.
yeah,
Is it what
yeah.
it's funny actually. I tell you, who just hit me up. It's just watched the podcast. Is a guy called Lars Sexton. Do you remember the name Lars
Yeah, yeah,
Sexton?
yeah, yeah. I
He,
know him well. A good pal of mine.
yeah, good
Yeah,
lad, real nice lad.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so he was kind of racing around then, and a lot of my ah oldest friends are from like the karting in the 90s because it was how many karts were on the ground? I mean, I remember TKM for a club round, it'd be
Jeez.
like 40, 45 entrants for a
Wow,
TKM club
wow.
round.
Full grid. Jesus Christ. You was lucky if on Sunday your car was still in one bit and your ribs weren't broken. It was just a thing of surviving every heat. But it was awesome. It was such great fun. And tough racing and the weather and wet and all this. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, that's funny that actually. So for whatever reason, I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning and I've got the phone just
Me
sat
too.
next to the
Me
bed, and I
too.
think
And me
I'm
too.
gonna sit. I'm gonna
Ah,
sat and watch your Caterham race
oh
from
yeah.
'98 in the wet. No, it's like
Yeah.
it's a full on karting mode, like braking in the middle of the track, round the outside. Yeah,
That was pretty wild,
no,
yeah.
it's where you learn. Yeah, it's where you learn, isn't it? So, in terms of what class you did 100B by the looks of the plates. In fact, let me, while we're talking about that, I'll get that.
Yeah,
I've got
yeah,
one
yeah.
of
Yeah.
the
Always did 100B with 100cc reed valve. Uh, we ref these engines to 22,500 RPMs. Yeah, that's right. That's when I was with Ricky Flynn Motorsport. Mhm. I
Yeah.
was on a Tony
So white
Club, yeah.
plates, air cooled,
Yeah, cool. Yes,
reed valve.
reed
I only
valve.
did one race in 100B, and I just remember seeing the thing scream. Yeah, like 20,000. So you reckon about 22,000 RPM?
83,000 we hit on the Conrod Straight up in up near Blackpool. What's it called? The circuit Three Sisters on the
Oh yeah,
Conrod
yeah,
Straight.
yeah, yeah.
I had
Hmm.
22,500 RPMs. The thing was screaming like a virgin.
You're on the wrong sprocket, mate. Jesus. And what engines did you use? Who was tuning them?
I was I first started with Dartford Karting on solo engines, and after a couple of years, I matured. Sorry, there's just the clouds here. One moment. Can you hear me?
You all right? Yeah, yeah.
Uh, After a couple of years, I was given the chance to join Ricky Flynn Motorsport, obviously top notch motorsport team, and we were on Tony kart and on Techno kart, and my engines were first tuned by Ricard from Loughton in Essex. They were Perilla engines and Perilla engines really, and then I changed over to Ricky Grice Motorsport, and he was tuning my engines after that. Grice
Yeah, I've
engine.
heard of these. So I
Yeah.
was only in karting for like 3.5 years. So I've heard of these guys, Grice engines. I think they might have tuned. Do you ever meet a friend of mine? Who's probably well, he's a bit younger than us, so he probably never competed again. A guy called Charlie Hollings, or Ricky Bobby Hollings, as I call him. He was
Well, it
in. He
doesn't
would have been
doesn't
in cadets. Yeah,
no,
he'd
it
have been
doesn't
in
ring.
cadets. He was kind of yeah, a lot younger. He's probably I reckon he's probably about 8, 9 years younger. The weird thing is though, right? So I'm 50. Well, 50 just turned 50 in August, and some of the kids that were in cadets now are like some of my best mates. Like people like
Really,
Stuart Mosley and Charlie Hollings, and they've just because as you grow older, obviously the age gap is different, but I still see them in my mind. It's like Stefan Hodgetts. Remember Stefan Hodgetts? He was in
that's why
cadets,
his
and
his his dad his dad built my M3, which I first raced in the European Championships at the Nürburgring in 24 hours. Chris Hodges is a good pal of mine. We were on the grid together.
was that when he was at CMS? Is it CMS Motorsport? Was
And
it
that was in the
CMS?
red M3 with 1-to-1 motorsport. David Leslie
Right.
David Leslie was my teammate, and Valentine Lindsay, Sir Valentine Lindsay, and of course Harry Handcomer.
Well, let me see. It takes us nicely. This almost looks professional, me doing this, actually. I did actually look through a few of the photos, and yeah, it's funny seeing David Leslie. I've got some bit of history with Dave myself, but we'll go on to this, and we're going to be flitting back and forth a little bit. But let me see if I can take some of the photos
That is
from
Harry
that sort
Handcomer.
of time. That's Handcammer there, is it?
Yeah, that was
Some
Spa
proper old
24.
school.
That's
Okay,
on the
yeah,
left
yeah, yeah,
side is Matthew Marsh from Hong Kong. Uh, there is
yeah.
then it's Harry Handcomer. Then it's the Trudy from promoting Spa 24 hours, and next is Tom.
Aha, aha. There you go. This is it. Oh, there we go. That's the photo I was looking
Yes,
for.
David Leslie. Yeah,
So that's the car that Chris Hodgetts prepped.
yeah. Chris Hodges built that car. I
Uh-huh.
mean, he
Uh-huh.
was in charge of the build. It was a ask Demon Twix guys. They know, and Middlehurst. They know about that car. But I raced that car 2 years, and Harry Handcomer and I, with Valentine Lindsay there in the middle, we managed to become once European champion with the red car, and then we changed over to
Yeah,
GTS sport.
that's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So that's a GTS car. I know that's a GTS
Yeah,
car because of their livery
yeah.
on the car. Tom Sherpherd and Richard Shaw.
Richard Shaw, yeah.
Yeah. So in '98, so we fast forward a little bit. I want to talk to you a little bit more about the karting, but it's just to talk about Tom and Rich for a second because they're really good guys. And so when you were doing Caterham Roadsports, I was doing BARC Formula Renault, and we were running with a Martini. I want to say Mark 72. It was a 96 car, but the BARC championship was for 2-year-old cars.
Yeah.
And which was the only thing I could afford at that point in time after Vauxhall Junior. because my old man had run out of money and all the rest of it. Anyway, they did a mega job. We nearly won the championship, and yeah, I can't talk highly enough. And then that was obviously them. So what years did you race the M3 in?
Well, karting. My first year I said to Ricky Flynn in Super One. I think it was down in the Cotswold. There's a kart track, and I got punted again in the final. I was really well placed for the final, and in the
Rislington, Little
Racing.
Rislington.
Yeah, I was well placed in Super One in the final, and of course somebody punted me off, and nobody could see it. So I said to Ricky Flynn, "Fuck off! I don't want to race in cars anymore. I want to go. I want to go racing cars." So Ricky Flynn, he's a good man. He's a good man, proper man, top coach. He called me all sorts when I was driving like a tosser. But anyway, I said to Ricky, I want to change to cars. I want to go Formula. And Ricky Flynn said, yeah, I called my mate Stuart Parker, Team Parker. They were
Yeah, yeah.
that was the first year I was their first driver uh, in Vauxhall Junior. Team Parker funded them.
Hmm.
Started 2 years before. 1 year Andy was racing. After that, Stuart. No, first year was Stuart was racing. Then Andy was racing.
Correct.
In the first year, I was their driver, and
Yeah.
we did the Vauxhall Championship. I think it was in '97 or '96, and we done Class B, and we had great. It was my first year in cars. It was awesome. I remember well on my first test day in Silverstone, first time in a race car. I was going out of the paddock and fucking laughing out of joy in my helmet, and and of course the first time round the fast corner, I put it in the fucking kitty in the litter box because I was so overwhelmed by the fun of it. And first corner, first lap, I put it in the kitty litter, and Stewart was not impressed, and then
Yeah.
Hoover had to it all out and all this, but it was okay, and we had a really
What year? So
successful.
that would have been that's 1997 because I when I did Class B in 96, he was running that car. I remember he wasn't particularly quick, but I remember the car was an absolute minter. It was beautifully prepared by him and his dad
Yeah, the green and yellow car.
until you got your hands on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It was a great car. And we done the whole season on a shoestring. I had £15,000 for the whole season.
no way. They did you a mega deal. Even back then, that's a mega deal. We were spending that on karting. Last year we did in karting, I reckon we did about 18 grand. I mean,
I
we did
know.
two club championships and Super One, but it's still, yeah, that's for car race. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Because I reckon Bark Renault in '98. So I worked out. I mean, I ended up running out of money at the end of the year, but we were still fighting. We were still fighting for a championship, and so I ended up running into debt with the team, which I actually paid them off, which they were quite impressed with. Even though it's like months later, I still paid them off. But I think we budgeted 23 grand. So what single seater championships nowadays can you do for 23 grand?
Bloody Formula 4, millions. They're talking millions in Formula 4.
I know it's crazy, isn't it? I think the only thing
No,
that the juniors can do nowadays is things like, the junior saloon car championship where you can go and buy like a Citroen Saxo or the Fiesta championship and you can go and buy a car for what, 10, 15, 20 grand and then, run it for basic expenses. But yeah,
I was,
but
I
for
was, uh,
single seater championship.
I was lucky, I don't know how, and I was a foreigner. I am a foreigner, but Stuart and his family, we sort of gelled, and we liked each other, and they gave me the chance. Although I didn't have a big sponsor, and we had a brilliant year. We won many races. We won Alton Park. We won Knock Hill, Silverstone, and I think I became vice champion in the B Championship. I was fighting against who was in my class? This Australian kid was in my class as well. You guys was in class A. There was Bitonia was racing. You were there. Richard Lyons, the mental guy, he was always fucking mental. It
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
it was a great championship of it. But in the B car with shock absorbers, in the dry, I had no chance against the Class A cars.
Yeah, so you had to run the. So explain in my rough understanding, and you can fill in the gaps. So it was a on the B class car there was a control on the number of tires. You could have what, six sets of tires I think for the year, and you could only run the Bilstein dampers, which had limited adjustment. Whereas I'm trying to think of what we were actually running. Ah, God, my old man would remember.
You
What
had
other
fully
dampers were
adjust,
available?
you had fully adjustable dampers, uh,
Yeah.
and we had. I mean, without aerodynamics, dampers are most important, and this is we didn't have. But it was still great.
Mm.
It was still great.
Yeah,
Scheckter
like you
was
say,
great.
in do you know what he was? I remember pissing him right. So this is Toby Schechter, right? So not Thomas
Yeah, yeah,
Schechter,
yeah.
is older or younger brother. So yeah, Toby was a bit of a lunatic, wasn't he? And
He was mad.
but I remember really annoying him at Alton Park once because I was wanking, to be honest with you. I mean, excuse my French, but I wasn't really, doing. I'd come from karting where I was winning races in karts, and then
Yeah.
going to this single seaters, and I was out of my depth, to be absolutely honest with you. And I really didn't have the best of coaching, but that's really an excuse. I was immature, to be fair, and inexperienced. But I remember trying to get on the back of Toby, following him around for like 2 or 3 laps just to try and stay with him, and he shaking his hand, trying to get rid of me. It's like, dude, just brake test me or something. But funny enough, my dad
No,
bumped into him at a festival. It was a music festival, and he was on the stand with on his father's whatever farm stand. He was selling cider, and my dad bumped into him. He said, "It's Toby, isn't it?" He's like, "Yeah." He said, "I'm Anthony Dunn's dad, former
no
Vauxhall
way.
Junior." He's like, "No way." Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
My coach, I didn't really have a coach apart from Ricky Flynn. He who looked after me. He who got me the drive with TBR, and also he came after the first year with Vauxhall Juniors. We said, okay, we can't afford Class A or Formula Three. Let's go Caterhams, and we built a brand new Caterham, and we went top all in. So we knew we had a brand new car and we had the budget. And Ricky Flynn also came to my Patreon races to sort of teach me. And he was a good teacher. He's a good teacher. Ricky
Okay.
Flynn.
Did he have a
Yeah.
background in cars at all, or was he all karts?
Ricky Flynn,
Mm.
get out. He was top carter. Look up Super One. Always short of budget, like we all were. And he was good mates with
Hmm.
Motorsport UK. And a couple of times he had when a driver was sick, he had to drive. But he was a brilliant driver, Ricky Flynn. You know how many people he got big? Uh, Lando Norris is
Oh,
one of
you
his
cut
kids.
out. Sorry, man, that just briefly cut out. Sorry, say that again.
Ricky Flynn and his kids. Lando Norris is also one of his drivers.
Ah, right, right. So he's still involved. Again, it shows how out of touch I am with karting, really. I mean, my daughter is doing cadets, but it's just up in the northeast at the moment. But so he's still involved in karts then.
She, Ricky Flynn Motorsport runs one of the most successful European kart world championship teams we know. RFM Motorsport. Come on, man. And I,
Right, right.
and,
Okay.
and I got a chance as a fucking foreigner to race for that team. I couldn't believe my luck.
Yeah, cool, man. Cool. So you did Caterhams in '98. Was it Parker that was running the Caterhams then?
Caterham's 98. Yeah, we did the full season. We won everything. Team Parker, I said, look, I want to do this. Full in, all in. We got the budget. We built a brand new car. We had the budget. And of course, all other teams, they were two, three drivers and they helped each other on the straight to tow each other. And I was on my own with a new team. I had no teammate, so I had to do it on my own. And in the Caterhams, you always needed the toe on the straight. So in the first race in Donington, it was wet. We qualified 10th. And of course, in the first lap, I was second. And after the third lap, I was first. And that did impress a lot of people. As an Austrian, it was not easy to fight all the English guys, you know.
Yeah, it's a great training ground in the UK, isn't it? That's kind of why I was interested why you came over because it's always traditionally been a mega training ground. It's always the most competitive, great variety of cars, loads of teams. So I was watching that last night. It's a really good link. So if you're watching this and you don't know Tom, have a look on YouTube. So what is it? It's 1998 Caterham Roadsport season review, and Tom's right there at the start. You see him having a good battle with what's the guy's name
Dave
who's in
Clark,
the
Dave Clark, Dave
Dave
Clark.
Clark, Dave Clark
Yeah,
5.
yeah, it's over. He
I knew
was,
some of those Caterham guys.
yeah, I do, yeah. But yeah, well, like in any motorsport, you know, when you fight up on the top, it gets tough. But it
So I
was
used to
great.
work with Ross Bygraves at Silverstone, and it's funny when you shared that video for I don't know what 3 or 4 months ago when you first shared it, and I looked on it, I was like Ross Bygrave, what happened to Ross Bygrave? And this is kind of it's like for me, my journey was 97. I started working at Silverstone because I needed to earn some money. And you start working with people who are quite big names in motorsport. I remember like the first or second day of working, and I'm suddenly working alongside of people like Darren Turner and
Oh, yeah,
Michael Vergers, for instance, who, I guess, Verge has become a friend now, and it's like we just work together at a few other jobs. And yet, as a kid, you're a bit sort of starry eyed by that whole thing
I
because
know that.
these
I
guys have
know
won
those
national
people.
championships. And sorry, say that again, man.
Yeah, I know a lot of those people.
Yeah. So it's no, that's cool. And like the Caterham Championship, Rob Garofal is another guy. He's one of my oldest friends, Rob Garofal.
Yeah, yeah,
Didn't
yeah,
it? Who
yeah,
won that
yeah.
championship that year in '98?
He was.
Who won
Rob
the
Garfield
championship
was
in
in.
'98?
Dave Clark.
Yeah, okay. I think Rob won it one year. I can't remember if it was that year or maybe the year after.
Uh, well, I only did it 1 year, and I was always up on top, and but I got disqualified for 3 races because Bygrave's sister, Bygrave in where was it uh, Cadwell Park? I think it was Cadwell. No, not Cadwell. Down south, down south, fast track. Uh, uh, Not Snetterton. No, down
Brands,
south. No, down south, further
Castle
south.
Combe,
Castlecombe.
Castle
Maybe
Combe.
Castlecombe, yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
so Ross Bygrave got flipped over in the race badly. He flipped 4 or 5 times, and I was 2 cars behind, and his sister, Bygrave's sister, she thought it was me who flipped her brother. So we came all into Park Ferme. I finished third or something like this, and I took my helmet off. I was full with adrenaline, and his sister comes along and calls me all sorts because I apparently flipped over Ross. But in the video, if you watch it, you can see it wasn't me. So I said to her, "Fuck off! It wasn't me." So she slapped me in my fucking face, gave me a slap, and sort of full of adrenaline, out of reflex, I slapped her back. I'm sorry for that, but they punished me for that. Really, they penalized me. I had to go to court, uh, and I was barred for 4 races. Yeah. I mean, why was this bird in Park Ferme allowed? I didn't flip him over. That was so unfair. That was
Freaking
the only chance how they could stop me. Otherwise, I would have won that championship easily. In that year, uh, there was the Caterham Festival in Brands Hatch, Caterham's non-stop, great, 60, 70 cars. I had to start that class on Friday for the qualifiers. You had to qualify for the qualifier. And on heats and heats and heats, I worked myself up. And on Sunday for the final, I was fourth or third on the grid, proud like fuck. And I did win the final, only to get disqualified again because I was a fucking Austrian.
You you bitch slapped someone else, did you? Well, you don't sound very bitter about it at all, mate.
Dave, in the lap before, Dave put me through its corner, not through its paddock hill bend. He put me out to, he hung me out to dry on the left hand side. So I punted him back in the next corner. His punt was not seen by anybody. My punt was seen, and I got disqualified. Well, fine, great. So that was it for me. In England, I said no more racing in England, and I went Europe racing with the M3 and the European long distance racing uh,
That's
after
funny.
the
I should
Vauxhall.
just say at this point, by the way, I should just say at this point, don't lift off doesn't condone domestic violence. I just be clear. Just to be... Right, tell me about your endurance M3 race. So when did you get? So you went into the red car then in what 1999?
Well,
Was
I
that an
was, I was,
E30 or
I
was
was,
that an E36 M3?
E26, E26. So I was
Yeah, yeah.
pretty pissed off with racing in England. I was still living in London, and so in motoring news, the paper, there was the position as a driver written out in with 1-to-1 motorsport, and and I called in. I called Mike Smith, rest in peace. And I said, yeah, I've done this and I've done that, and I'm interested in the championship. And they said, yeah, come to Melbury Park in March, I think it was. We do a shootout. There was four drivers invited to do that shootout, and uh, David Leslie was the chosen one. He decided who got the drive on that day in Melbury
Okay.
Park in that red M3, who was which was built by Stefan Rogers. So
Yeah,
at that
Chris.
at that at that point, Chris Rogers, sorry. At that point, I had an M3 as a road car, so it was like an old friend, and we had
Yeah.
slicks on that car and a good shock absorbers, and I knew Mallory Park already. So I just jumped in that car. It felt like home, and I, I burned. I did great laps, you know. I was really relaxed in that Group N car. And so after the day, I've done a bit of setup work, and David Leslie said, "Yeah, what do you think here and what do you think there?" And so after the day, we went up to the when you, on the exit in Melbury Park. Up there, there's a pub, so we had a beer there. And I said, "Yeah, I like it. I want to do the European Championship with you guys." And a couple of days later, they said, "Yeah, Tom, you got the job." I had small sponsorship. I
Mega.
think I had 25,000 or something like this. It wasn't for my beauty and for my budget. I got the job. I did have some talent as well, you know, Daddy.
Yeah, well, I mean, David had a great reputation, and you know, the strange thing is, and he's still very sadly missed. So we lived
Yeah.
in a place called Bloxham, right? So Bloxham turned into being like a hub of like homes for motorsport people randomly. I went to primary school in Bloxham, right? And my dad had his garage in Bloxham. I grew up in a place called Barford and then into Hook Norton, just down the road from where Clarkson's farm is. But yeah, so David moved into Bloxham from wherever. I think he was from Carlisle. I think he's from originally. I think I might be
No,
saying that.
it's Bloxman.
Yeah, yeah, but I think he's got a kind of. I might be talking out of turn, but for some reason in my mind, he's from that neck of the woods. But anyway, so he moved into Bloxham, and then so he was racing at the time in the Honda in the touring cars, the Honda
Yeah, I know.
Accords.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I remember them sponsored by a handbag company actually, because he'd got some handbags for his wife, I think, or something. I just remember them sponsored by a handbag company. But
Yeah.
Yeah, he came into our my dad's garage and was sat in the showroom. So like he's kind of like he's, it's a big deal. He's a big name in motorsport, and he's sat
Cool,
in our
cool.
garage. And he was very helpful, gave us some advice. And in Formula Vauxhall Junior, our transporter, our truck that we used in '97 was an ex David Leslie transporter that he'd used for running his team, and it was
He was
originally a Hayton Coulthard
Ray
transporter.
Mallock. Ray Mallock was there, wasn't he? Ray Mallock Motorsport he was with.
Maybe that was a. Oh yes, the touring cars. Yes, correct. Yes, correct. They were really quick cars. I seem to remember. Yeah. So you ended up racing alongside Dave Leslie. What team was that with again?
1-to-1 Motorsport, David Smythe.
Okay. And that was what European Saloon
Uh,
Endurance. What was the championship?
it was called International Special Car Series, ISCS, FIA homologated Group N. So M3s we chosen, and we had some great races. There was Spa 24 hours, Nürburgring 24 hours, Wallenlunga Say or Paul Ricard 1,000 miles, um, Austrian 1,000 kilometers. So all really, really good races. And people raced
Mhm.
like Dick Presta, Toto Wolff. Big names were racing in that championship, and it was great racing. 24 hours is for me the best racing in the world. When they call you up at 4 in the morning, Tom in the car, but it's raining and it's foggy. What more could you have wished for?
Yeah. No, it's mega. I mean, you get mega driving time with it as well. You know, randomly enough, in 2000 I think it was 2000, Rob Garofal, who had become quite friendly with at Silverstone, phoned me up. No, in fact, didn't phone me up. I was working for a Caterham team at Brands Hatch on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and he said, "Dunny, we've got a spare seat at Nürburgring 24 this weekend in a Caterham. Do you fancy it?" I was like, "Yes, but I've got no dough. I've literally got no dough. How much do you mean no dough?" I can maybe scrape together 400 quid. Right.
well,
Get it. I got a phone
with
call back
Howard,
from him. Make it. Go on. Sorry.
with Howard Redhouse as well.
No, I was racing with, and this is a name that I think has come up as that you've mentioned before. It was myself, Rob Garofal, and Robin Liddell raced this car, and
Yeah,
it was run by GWS, Gerald Webb Motorsport.
yeah,
It was
yeah, 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 yeah.
absolute shoestring racing,
Nice.
and literally, this was pre-internet, so you couldn't go on YouTube and go and learn the circuit or play Gran Turismo. This was just literally
I
look at
know, I
some
know, I
printed
know,
out
I
BMW maps, and yeah,
know.
just it was absolute shoestring race. 450 quid to do Nürburgring 24 hours, and
How
50 quid of that went into
amazing.
Rob's back pocket.
My connections is
But yeah,
really,
no, mega.
connection is really poor. Can you?
When we post process it, it'll save in good quality. I think it should save okay quality. Yeah, so that's
Okay.
mega driving. So then you went to with GTS the following year was
Yeah,
it?
yeah. We uh, GTS were they were out with three cars. 1-to-1 Motorsport only had one car. GTS was the dominant car in the championship, and big names were racing in that car. What's the Kiwi name? Rob Wilson. Rob Wilson.
Oh, okay,
He
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
he was in that 1-to-1 car, and somehow they
Smoking
changed.
his roll-ups. I remember
somehow
seeing
they
him at Bruntingthorpe all the time, with some
somehow they
random
got
Formula One driver, and
yeah. Somehow they got uh, GTS and their top drivers somehow got on the wrong path, and they left, and so there was a position free in number one car of GTS Motorsport, and Harry Handcombe and I applied for that position, and we were second in the championship. So mid-season, we got given the chance. I think in Barcelona we had a test drive for GTS, and they said, "Okay, you
Hmm.
can have our own car." That was a fucking holy M3. I mean, that was just an awesome M3, and we jumped in the car and finished on the podium every race for the rest of the season. And the following season, we won it dominantly. Zandvoort, everywhere. Magny-Cours, Paul Ricard, everywhere. We just beat
Yeah.
everybody. And in Most, up the hill, Dulla was in a 3.2 liter with 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 um, with Toto Wolff, and I was in the 3 liter and uphill because I took the corner much better, which uphill they didn't believe
Tell me
that
you
we only
fired
had.
Toto off at some point. Tell me you fired him off at some point.
No, I did not fire him off. He never
See,
touched me. He
you should
never
have let us
touched
down
me.
now.
No, he never touched me, so I never had to touch him back. It was a respectful hello, and that was it. He wasn't he was never a challenge for me. I just drove by.
Hmm. What did he get up to? Did he do DTM or something? Toto. He's obviously very good as a manager. He's clearly exceptional as managers. I suppose in a way it's a bit like Christian Horner because I was always a bit sniffy towards Christian in a way because he clearly got loads of budget and did F3 but kind of never really was amazing as a driver but clearly exceptional as a team manager and I guess that's Toto's route as well. I don't know what else he
Well,
did though, to be fair.
he did quite well. He was always well funded, like you say. After the European Group N Championship, he went with uh, Johnny Molem and Richard Dean. I also raced for them in the European Le Mans Series in the Porsche GT3 RS, and
Ah,
he
yeah,
went
I've got a picture of that actually somewhere.
he went with Johnny Molem, and he wanted to go full attack and tried to get the lap record on the Nürburgring and so on. But then eventually he realized he wasn't fast enough, and he retired from active racing like I did. I think I retired in 2004. Um,
Mhm.
I've raced so many thousand miles and I won so much. And for me, it was important to see my daughter growing up as well. And Danny, as much as I do, racing every weekend away, I needed a break from that. And I think I retired in 2002 or 2004. And I won't miss it. Mind you, I would have liked to continue a little bit longer. But that's the way it went.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, kids are absolutely priority. It's one of the reasons why I don't do too much in the way of race coaching at weekends because I have my kids. I have an arrangement with their mum that I have the kids every other weekend and half of all the school holidays. And my wife works during the week, so quite often at weekends that she'd prefer me to be at home. I'm guessing. Although I'm usually off doing some other random shit as well. But no, 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 family.
You run a lot. You run a lot.
I do. Yeah. Cheers, man. And by the way, season's greetings to you. Did you have a good Christmas? By the way, we're slightly going a little bit back out to front on this this conversation. Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, safe.
Lots of this stuff. Oh my god. Oh my
what
god. And we
what
got New
what you
Year's.
drinking, Danny? What are you drinking there?
A very gay can of Copperberg.
Okay.
You've probably gathered by now this isn't really a PC podcast. Okay, don't care, don't care, literally don't care. Um, no, I was going to say to you. So you've been the main thing that you kind of came back onto my social media from was all of your posts about Formula One. You're a big fan of Formula One. I get a lot of my information, inside information, things like your brake balance. T pieces in Red Bulls, and the kind of the details. I like
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
I kind of describe, in the introduction, although I'm guessing you don't do this for a living or even monetize it necessarily, but um, that I kind of introduced you as a citizen journalist.
Okay.
It's like an individual going to find out information about something, and you obviously clearly have a slightly unhealthy obsession about Formula One.
Well, I never was into football, so what else is there?
Yeah, well, it's a sport that you obviously know something about, and you've raced against people like Toto, and you've raced against some karters that have gone on to race in F1 and various other things. It's something that you kind of have an insight to, isn't it? It just, I suppose, it becomes fairly normal.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to have some contact, and through my languages, I can listen to the Spanish media. I can listen to English media, and I can also listen to Red Bull media. And out of these uh, languages and informations, I can sort of make up my own mind. And since I'm a bit of a motorsport freak, I think I've got some sometimes good information.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. The Christian Gate.
Oh, fuck me, Ira. How stupid is that fella?
But let's just be careful on this one. Let's be really, really careful.
Yeah,
That was amazing. That, oh yeah, you keep drinking. Just drink the lager. Everything will be fine. I think that's what Christian said. I think that's what Christian said to his PA. Anyway, so and try and get myself banned
but
from YouTube on only the
Danny,
second
the
podcast.
last the last word is not spoken on this thing.
No, I don't believe it will be. No, it's yeah, yeah. It's That's an interesting case. A lot of political stuff's going on. I mean, I'm guessing a lot of political stuff between the Austrian side and the Singapore side. And again, I don't want to kind of go into too much detail that's going to get you a phone call on Tuesday morning. But
Ah,
yeah, it's going to roll on.
yeah,
So tell me,
shame. Yeah,
sorry, we got a bit of a delay there. Go on. Shame. What were you going to say?
I'm listening.
No, go on. Tell what you're going to say.
I mean, how it amazes me how such a successful team can be destroyed by stupid teenager idiot things. I mean, how can yeah, well, luckily it's not down to me. But I had to report about it, Danny, because Austria and Germany, they were just all pro Red Bull. Nobody is allowed to criticize Red Bull in Austria and Germany. Same with same with Verstappen. Nobody talks against Verstappen in Holland or in the whole of the Netherlands. But I don't care because I'm not paid for them. And sometimes if they do wrong, I don't give a shit. I say what I think.
Yeah, do you know what I really like that about you? It's something else I like about Matt Kelly as well is that you're just not afraid to shoot from the hip, and
Mad. Mad days.
it's it,
we raced the 24 hours in Spa together.
he's a funny lad, funny, funny, funny. I think a lot of people actually don't get that almost everything he posts online is a piss take. He's just a piss take, and he just
I
doesn't
mean,
give a
he knows
flying
the
fuck.
score. Now,
Sorry for
Matt,
swearing.
Danny Matt Kelly knows the score. Do you know that we raced together in karts in Rye House? And after that, 10 years later, we met in Spa 24 hours.
Okay. He sent me. This is going to make you laugh. You're going to like this. I wasn't sure whether to share this or not, but I'm going to share it. You'll like this.
Come on, give
So
it to me, Danny.
I said, he said, when, when's your next guest? And I said, oh, it's Tommy Jakobitsch coming on. I didn't say Jakobitsch. I said Tommy's coming on. He said, I've got a mega picture of Tommy at Spa. He was very popular in the Ardennes. This is what I get sent. This is what I get sent. So
Show
I'm
me the
like,
picture. Show me the
because
picture.
man, I've gone. Some AI is going to pick this up. AI is going to pick this up and immediately get me banned.
Fucking Nazi.
Oh, you're on about Austrian Tommy. There's another one. There's another. His Autosport write-up for the 24 hours is epic. Hang on. I'll repeat that one. His Autosport write-up for the 24 hours is epic. So I'm thinking, oh, he's done a comedy one. He's going to put something else. His Autosport write-up for the 24 hours was epic. This is what you have to deal with. This is what. So literally, I've now just done something. I'm sure it's like they're going to get me banned or cancelled or shadow banned or something else.
Don't
But
worry.
hey,
Don't worry, we're not
who
doing
fucking
anything
cares?
good.
Hey, it's Christmas. Ah, funny geezer, funny
Can we,
geezer.
Danny, can we
Well, it's
pause
all
this
in the. Sorry, man.
Can we pause this? I need to go for fact.
Well, listen, mate. We've done 55 minutes. That's really cool. We've had some great stories. We've had some good banter. Um, I'm going to get this out before New Year's. I mean, one of the things I wanted to do was something before New Year's because I don't know how you get on, but like between Christmas and New Year, it can be a real drag. Do you know what I mean? You've drunk too
Yeah.
much, you're depressed, and just like, oh man, well, if you do something which is interesting, drags you in, is a bit of a laugh. I mean, ultimately, that's what life is all about, and that's what we
Yeah.
wanted to have you on, really. So, listen, man, it's been great to have you on. Have a great New Year. I should say a couple of things actually. A bit of admin. Sorry, I really should have had this prepared. Uh, what I should tell people is to subscribe. I'm a bit Brewster's Millions. Subscribe if you want. Do whatever. Watch it if you want.
I have
If
done.
you if
I
you
have.
if you enjoyed this, go on, go on.
Yeah, I
Sorry, were you
enjoyed it very
saying
much.
something? You're welcome, mate. You're welcome. I would say if you're watching this and you enjoyed it, let me know whether you. I mean, this is obviously the first remote one I've done. This for a bloody good reason because he's in Austria, apart from anything. If you'd like to see me do more of these remote ones, or if you want to see me do it in person, Tommy, you're more than welcome to come here. We can have a few beers. You can have a fag in the office here. That's not a gay euphemism, just to be clear. But yeah, I don't care whether people subscribe or not, but comment, make some comments. If you enjoyed it, if you want to see
I'm
someone else
I'm
on.
there. I'm there. I'm there, Danny. Danny, thank you very much for the invitation, and I shall oblige for the next time.
Top man, cheers, Tommy. We'll catch you again soon. Have a good Chris. Have a great New Year, man.
And you, mate. And you. Bye, bye, Danny.
Thanks, man. See you later.